The other thing that is happening that broke is that Donald Trump, a deposition, a video of his deposition where he pleaded the Fifth Amendment over 400 times was released. And it is something that was reported on that he pled the Fifth a whole bunch of times. But when you see it, and you see an ex-president of the United States of America, someone who, again, this is a turn of phrase I use all the time, who rose his right hand and swore a solemn oath, a vow, supposed to be a man of honor, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to faithfully execute the duties of President of the United States. He gave his word he would do that. This person who also on the campaign trail and over the years has maligned people who chose to assert their Fifth Amendment right under the Constitution of the United States against self-incrimination. Here's that first. Let's give you a reminder of Donald Trump's very, very settled attitude about people who plead the Fifth.
When you have your staff taking the Fifth Amendment, taking the Fifth so they're not prosecuted, when you have the man that set up the illegal server taking the Fifth, I think it's disgraceful. Fifth Amendment, Bob. The mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? Fifth Amendment, horrible. Horrible. He pleaded the Fifth, and that was the end. We never heard about him again. This is like Watergate, only it's worse. Because here, our foreign enemies were in a position to hack our most sensitive national security secrets.
There is nothing sacred for Donald Trump. Nothing. Because that same man in August of this past year sat with a deposition with lawyers asking him questions. Just days after his home, Mar-a-Lago, was raided by the FBI and the Department of Justice for the documents that endangered our national security. And when asked questions, he read a statement, and then they asked him a question. He read another statement and asserted his Fifth Amendment right under the Constitution. So apparently it's like the mob. It's, if you're innocent, why are you pleading the Fifth? Just using his words against him. Except he did it over 400 times. Now, obviously, I'm not going to play a clip here of him doing it 400 times, but I'm going to give you the flavor of how this deposition went down, where he just kept referring to the statement over and over and over. Watch this.
Mr. Trump, I understand you have a statement that you wanted to read into the record.
Yes.
Would you please feel free to start at any time?
Thank you very much. This is the greatest witch hunt in the history of our country. There has never been another president, or perhaps even another politician, who has been persecuted, harassed, and in every other way unfairly treated like President Donald J. Trump. What Letitia James has tried to do the last number of years is a disgrace to the legal system, an affront to the New York State taxpayers, and a violation of the solemn rights and protections afforded by the United States Constitution. She developed. I once asked, if you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? I was asking that question. Now I know the answer to that question. When your family, your company, and all the people in your orbit have become the targets of an unfounded, politically motivated witch hunt supported by lawyers, prosecutors, and even the fake news media, you really have no choice. We cannot permit a renegade and out-of-control prosecutor to use this investigation as a means of advancing her political career. New York deserves better, and this country deserves better. This is a vindictive and self-serving fishing expedition, the likes of which this country has perhaps never seen before. If there was any question in my mind, the raid on my home 2 days ago, Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, Florida, by the FBI just 2 days prior to this deposition. Think of it. Wiped out any of that uncertainty. I have absolutely no choice because the current administration and many prosecutors in this country have lost all moral and ethical bounds of decency. Anyone in my position not taking the Fifth Amendment would be a fool, an absolute fool. One statement or answer that is ever so slightly off, just ever so slightly, by accident, by mistake, such as it was a sunny and beautiful day when actually it was slightly overcast, would be met by law enforcement at a level seldom seen in this country, because I've experienced it. The United States Constitution exists for this very purpose, and I will utilize it to the fullest extent and defend myself against this malicious attack by this administration, this Attorney General's office, and all other attacks on my family, my business, and our country. Accordingly, under the advice of my counsel and for all of the above reasons, I respectfully decline to answer the questions under the rights and privileges afforded to every citizen under the United States Constitution. This will be my answer to any further questions.
So, Mr. Trump, I take it you are not going to answer any questions about your preparation today with your counsel. Is that correct?
Then, should I say this, or should I respond to that?
Just read that.
For all of the reasons provided in my answer, which is incorporated herein in its entirety, I decline to answer the question.
Okay. Mr. Trump, the focus of our investigation and what we are primarily going to cover today involves the presentation of your statements of financial condition between 2011 and the present. I take it you are generally familiar with those statements. Is that correct?
For all of the reasons provided in my answer, which is incorporated herein in its entirety, I decline to answer the question.
Okay.
One, how mopey, what a sad sack Donald Trump is there. Ex-President of the United States of America. Remember when he stood on the balcony and gasped for breath, desperate to look like a strong man? What happened to that guy? He's, oh, boo, I'm sad. You're asking me questions. I'm going to plead the fifth. There's several things there that I want to talk about, though. That the Constitution exists for this exact reason. That if I say it's sunny outside when it was actually cloudy, law enforcement's going to show up, the likes of which we've never seen. It's to call it hyperbole isn't doing justice to hyperbole. That now I know, he says, I was just asking that question. Why would someone take the Fifth Amendment when they weren't guilty, if they were not guilty? Now I know the answer to that question. He wasn't asking a rhetorical question. He was making a statement. It was declaratory. Oh, if you do this, it's like the mob. Only guilty people take the Fifth, he said. And then I want to remind you and the audience, dear listener, dear viewer, that taking the Fifth Amendment, it is a right under the Constitution of the United States against being forced to self-incriminate. It's not, I don't want to testify, therefore I'm going to take the Fifth Amendment. It's not, I'm tired today, therefore I'm pleading the Fifth Amendment. That's not what it exists for. It exists, if you committed a crime, you cannot be compelled to testify against yourself. So by him taking the Fifth 400 times in this case, it means he believes, reasonably believes, he could self-incriminate by answering the questions. Very telling, very telling. I know a lot of people out there, this is never going to go anywhere, this is never going to be any consequence. I am not so quick on that answer. I think that there's a very good chance that he is going to face consequences, maybe not as quickly as we would like, but I believe it could happen. I'd love to have you connect with me. Again, I am at Dollemore on the social medias, and I'm right here on YouTube, Jesse Dollemore.
You might remember that a few years ago, the show got hacked and many thousands of dollars were stolen. We never got it back. It's a terrible feeling. It can happen to anyone. But a couple of years ago, we got Aura, which really gives us significantly more peace of mind. And our sponsor, Aura, is the app that protects you from scammers by alerting you anytime your info like email, passwords, social security number are found in data breaches. Aura also automatically requests removal of your info from search engines, and it can reduce spam calls. Aura alerts you quickly about suspicious credit inquiries, like if someone tries to take a loan out in your name. And Aura's password manager makes it easy to keep your account secure to begin with. Aura also has parental controls for your kids' devices. You can restrict apps or manage screen time, set focus time, make sure they're doing homework instead of binging on YouTube. You can try Aura free for 14 days at aura.com/Pacman. Use the free trial to see if your email, password are already out there. You may be surprised. The link is down below.